Hi, Scott here. Hope you're well. Okay, let's get stuck in some charts. I'll go a little bit slower this time with the way I lay things out because obviously I do flick through them pretty quickly because that's what my brain's used to and what I'm used to. And I appreciate that maybe you don't have that's the same familiarity with the way I lay the charts out that I do. So we'll go through some charts. We've got a few things to look at today, as always. But the important thing is to share what knowledge I have and just how to look at the markets and take your best guess at what's going to happen in the future, and therefore look for possible setups that may play out soon. So let's get into the charts first, and I'll turn my camera off. Okay, first one we have is Aussie Kiwi. So looking at the monthly, weekly, daily, I don't look at the monthly and weekly much unless it's at an inflection point like the daily 50, the weekly 50 or the monthly 50 perhaps. So the 50s on all my charts, the 50 EMA of that particular time interval will be the red one. So 50 is always red, and this color blue is the 20 usually. So anyway, so we're looking at the Aussie Kiwi. We've got the red EMA, the 50 is the most important thing. That's what a lot of strategies are based upon. So what do we have on Aussie Kiwi? We have on the daily, we have a strong day yesterday, down day, and probably continuing today. So we've got a down arrow on that one. So then we go to the lower time frames, to particularly the 1 hour, to see if that agrees. Also the 4 hour can be useful. But what I like to do is I like to zoom in on the 1 hour and have on my 1 hour chart the other MAs that are important. So on this one hour chart, I have the 1 hour 50, this red line here. I have the 4 hour 50, which is this blue line. It's not the 20, not the 1 hour 20, it's the 4 hour 50, because that gives me an indication of where the next level up of time, next time interval up, the 4 hour, where that's heading. Because at the end of the day, it's always the time interval higher is kind of the guiding light for the lower time frame you're looking at. So when you're looking at the 4 hour, you're looking at the daily, and I look at the daily as well, as we always do the daily first, because that's the key thing. And then we zoom into the lower time frame to get more specifics and more tone into our entries. So here's the 1 hour 50, the red one, and on here I also have the daily 20 is the red line. I have these faint so they don't stand out too much and distract me, and the daily 50 is the green line. So sometimes these can be very important. Not so much the 20, sometimes the 20, but the 50 is the really important one, the daily 50, which is where we start on the daily chart and then we hone in on the 1 hour chart. So if we're going to come up to, if we're going to be trading through the daily 50, I want to know about it in my 1 hour chart. Otherwise, you've got to have all the charts on the same layout and then look at different screens. And it gets, to me, I find it's the easiest way. Okay, so Aussie Kiwi, we're looking for, I've forgotten already. Let's go back to the daily. Looking for a possible short continuation of this downtrend. What does the 1 hour give us? It gives us this big, very bearish day yesterday, and it kind of stalled. I always like to look at the MACD to see how the strength of this downtrend is. As we can see, although it's pulled back slightly on the price chart, on the MACD it's a very strong uptrend. So that's indicating that it's losing momentum to the downside. So the pip snatcher I've got put on here, the 1-to-1, will that play out? It can still play out. The 1 hour 50 is perfectly placed, it's just behind the pivot. And as it pulls back, that'll catch up. A quick test of that. We can take the 1% pip snatcher short for a quick 1% profit, hopefully. But this MACD is suggesting that maybe this downtrend is losing steam and it may not play out. So for that reason, although it's not a very clear MACD, I would steer clear of this one. So I'll put that into my watch. Actually, I haven't cleaned this up very well, have I? Let's get rid of those. That one, that one. Okay. All right, Euro Aussie. Starting with the daily. We have stalling at this line here, which looking at the monthly and that trend line, continue that trend line, you see it touches here on the daily, and then it's touching that level again. It's also a level strong SR as well. Support resistance line, as you can see in the faint blue line. So it's stalling at this level, and it's paired a doji day before yesterday and a doji again yesterday. That's looking like it's going to reverse. Let's have a look at the hourly chart. Right, so we have this uptrend here, this strong trend line, which it broke here once, and it broke here again yesterday, but then it went back above it. That's broken again down to the downside. So I now see two trend lines in play. This first one is pretty much convincingly broken, but the second one may still be in play. Now, what I've also got is I've got this as a gold, because this could play out. You can take this also as a swing strategy. I don't talk about swing strategies very much, but they can be very good. So if we look back at the daily, if we're going to do some kind of swing strategy like a power trend or reversal, in this case it'd be a reversal, we could do a very simple looking entry here, stop up here somewhere just above those highs. Let's zoom in a bit because it's a bit close. Okay, so stop above the highs, entry just below these lows, and play it down to where? 20, the 50. So there's 1 or 2% in there. So that's a swing strategy. But if we're a day trader and we want swing strategy, there's the SBO, which is a similar idea, but we zoom in a bit more. So we actually enter on the hourly chart, and we trade it on the hourly chart. So what we could do here, we could have but even have entered yesterday, that break was a fair bit lower. Okay. So that would have been entering there, stop up behind these highs, and you'd still be okay with the way it's going so far. And then you can take this down to, say, the daily 50. So that 2.3% we saw on the daily chart with the swing trade, we now have 3.26%. So we've got 50% more profits by trading it as an SBO. Now we missed that entry as yesterday, but we could get another one very soon today. Get in here, there's a possible 4% to the daily 50. Obviously, the closer you are to this top, the better your profits, the better the reward risk. So that's possible, but then you'll be trading through these trend lines. Now that trend line exists, I'd be aware of that and wait for it to prove itself and break below the 1 hour 50, hopefully down here somewhere. Hopefully it goes sideways for a bit. If it breaks straight through, then I would suggest it's not worth the risk trading through this trend line. It may just bounce off and go back up before it comes down again. So that's just a quick overview of a swing trade. And it's for me as well, because I need to remember the swing trades can be very useful at exactly the right time. The right time being when it's stalling at a very strong level great little dojis. That's a great opportunity for some kind of swing trade. The usual trade, of course, would be an IBO. So a breakout of here, not as far as that, maybe down to here, and a pullback, and down to the 4-hour 50 or further. And of course, you can be a hybrid trader. You can enter as an IBO, and then you can trade this down to the daily 50. And that way you get an even higher reward risk. That's a different sort of trading. Right, let's move on to the next one. Euro USD, what does that give us? Right, on the daily, this trend line's been there for a while. Heading back towards it again, it's kind of decelerating. It hasn't hit that trend line yet. But let's look at the hourly chart. What do we see? Okay. So the Euro USD is not a particularly clean action, which is typical. It's kind of a bit yucky. But we can see a wave 1, wave 2 pullback. This is a wave 3. We get a wave 4 pullback. We can get a wave 5 up to the daily 50. Does the daily 50 cross that line? Daily 50 is just above this trend line. So what I suggest is copying that trend line, pasting it into the 1 hour chart, and then going back and just fine tuning that trend line to see exactly where it goes. But if this one plays out here, we've got a fib from this low, which is this run that breaks the 4 hour 50, to this high, 382 pullback, lines up reasonably well with the 1 hour 50. The 4 hour 50 is this blue line, which will be before our 618, which is the green line on the fib. And that'll give us a nice little CBO, complete breakout. And potentially a couple of percent or so. If you find this trend line is actually there, then you may want to, you can still trade up to here, just be cautious. If it does start stalling here, just get out. Okay, CubeCAD, what do we have here? Okay, this trend line here has been finally broken, it seems, with the close above this trend line yesterday. Very bullish day yesterday. Kiwi had a good day. Had some news yesterday morning. High inflation, for some reason, is a good thing. Anyway, I don't get into the fundamentals so much. Okay, so what do we have here? We have a possible CBO setting up here. This is the first time we had a CBO back here, then drop down below the 1 hour 50 and 4 hour 50, and then it's come back up above it again. So we can trade this as a CBO, discretionary. And from these lows to this high, enter at 382, stop behind the 618, the green line. The 4 hour 50 is before the 618, so that protects our stop, and that makes it a CBO. That's good. Not these fat ones so much. And then trade up to the daily 50. But there's this trend line here. Is that on the daily? So this trend line I took from here, I fine-tuned it on the hourly chart, and it seems to have rejected it yesterday. So let's have a look what we got. Actually, the new trend line I just found, that's all it is. Okay. So the big trend line was breaking through here somewhere, and that's convincingly been broken. But there's a trend line here between this high, and this high. So just be aware of that. It's not a particularly strong one. We've only got 1, 2, this is only 3 touches. But to be aware of it, because if it does hit that, stall there and stall there again, I'll be getting out. Otherwise, you can trade it up to the daily 50. Okay, let's have a cleaner one, Kiwi yen. Another bullish day yesterday, another trend line on the daily, and there's room to the trend line. And this is what we have on the hourly chart. So what do we have? We have, okay, strong uptrend, pretty good trend line. and maybe we have here, let's do that, a pip snatcher. If you get a pullback to the pivot, daily pivot, this blue line. So a little bit more. Daily pivot, this blue line. I have to break the trend line. The 1 hour 50 is quite a long way back, so maybe that's looking a bit questionable. Now, as with every pip snatcher, I try to pull it apart. Look at the MACD, and the MACD is an definite downtrend. So from this high here to this high here, higher price action, low on the MACD. MACD diversion, indicating that this could easily just roll over any time and head short. So I would not be trading that one either. Pip snatchers need to be pretty perfect. Right. Last one on my orange list is Kiwi USD. So again, we've had stalling at this level, bullish day the last couple of days. It's been going very sideways. So I'm not happy with the way it's looking going sideways. It's not clearly broken out. Maybe if it breaks through into this above the daily 20, that could be a nice little long trade. Look at the hourly chart, see what we're doing. And we can see that that sideways action is got a high, higher lows, and then lower highs, and then a lower low, and then a higher high, and then a higher low. It's all over the shop. So we have kind of cleared this high. You could trade this as a CBO. So we've got, if you look at the bigger picture, from here, we've got a higher high, higher low, higher high again. This will be a higher low on the pullback. And from here, wave 1, wave 2 pullback, wave 3, wave 4 pullback, and we can trade wave 5 higher. So this pulls back to the hourly 50, the red line. The 4 hour 50 is behind us, which is nice, before the 618. You can have enter the 382, stop below the 618, trade it higher. We're trading through the daily 20, which is already rejected once, twice. For me, that doesn't make it stronger. With most support resistance lines and trend lines, the more times it rejects it, the stronger it gets. With the daily 20, it doesn't seem to be the case, because people will see the daily 20, they'll close their positions, which is why we get this rejection of the daily 20, but they don't really. The big traders don't really care, and will trade straight through it. So we've had 2 rejections. This is like the 3rd. It wouldn't stop me trading through it. Just be aware it's there. And the last point, oh yes, the last point is why take profit up here? Good question. I just chose that because of these highs over here on the hourly. Just take profit just before these highs. I still give 3%. So that could be quite nice. Okay, so I have a list of ones which may play out soon. So let's have a look at those. We'll go through those a bit quickly. Support at this level here on the daily, rejection, and we've got some positive action going on. And we have here, kind of going sideways. So I wouldn't want to trade this breakout here. We've had a breakout here, a breakout here. It didn't pay off. Another breakout here. I wouldn't be happy with that. I would wait for a break at the 4 hour 50, then a pullback and take it as a CBO. Being a CBO, probably taking a bit longer to set up. Need quite a few 4 hour candles. And we can trade up to the daily 20 or the daily 50. So that could be a CBO, at least up to there. Stop back here somewhere. We can even trade it higher to the daily 50. All right, so if I keep an eye on Aussie yen. Pullback, strong uptrend, stalling at the daily 50. So what do we have here? On the hourly chart, we have the daily 50 as a green line, so it's stalling there. This trend line is still intact. I wouldn't want to trade it long because the daily 50 is here. Also, it's been decelerating. Let's look at the MACD. Okay, good MACD diversion here from this high to this high. So MACD diversion, implying it's going to break down. Once it breaks this trend line, it could be on the way down. And I've got two trades in here. Let's just do that. So the first one is another swing trade. We talked about swing trades just a minute ago. An SBO, when it breaks this trend line, a close below this trend line, you could take that as a swing breakout, SBO. So you enter on the close of the 1 hour candle, and it's closed below this trend line. We've broken it and closed below it. Enter there, stop up behind these highs with a little bit of wiggle room, and then trade it down to these lows. Could be a nice little swing trade. You will be trading through the 1 hour 50, but that's the advantage of getting in early. If you want to get in a bit later, you wait for a break of the 1 hour 50, and then you'll be getting in here somewhere. And as you see the profits, then our risk reward is much lower. Still a nice looking trade though. So that's a swing. This other one here is if you be patient, wait for it to break the trend line, break the 1 hour 50, it should probably be a while away yet. Pull down here, probably down to the 4 hour 50, reject it, pull back, give us an entry, then we'll be trading through the 4 hour 50, so therefore it's an IBOC. And trading down to where? Maybe these lows, or you could push it a bit further. So that's one to look for. Aussie yen, Aussie dollar. Okay, we've had a strong rejection again yesterday. Bit of deceleration. It's not looking too convincing on the daily chart, but we're looking for an update probably. Okay, now I found why it could be stalling at this level. I've got a couple of trend lines on here. Let's zoom right out. You can see this trend line here. That one. So this trend line here, this high, and it seems to have hit that kind of level again. And there's another trend line here where it's got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 touches, a slight break there, and then again that seems to be touching that line there. So they both converge at the same point, which is roughly where we went to yesterday. So that's implying that that may be a strong level. Nothing to say it won't trade through it, but I wouldn't want to enter an IBO here. Kind of missed it anyway. 2 IBOs. But a break of these trend lines and a pullback to the trend line will give a great CBO, because we've now got the confirmation that we can break these trend lines, and the trend line then was acting as resistance on the way through it, and now it's acting as support below it. Out there somewhere. So that could be a nice little CBO setting up next day or so. CAD yen, really bullish day 2 days ago, Monday, and then a kind of doji candle. Is that a trend reversal, or is that a continuation? Remember, doji just means indecision. Will the bulls take charge again, or will the bears take control? So the 1 hour chart gives us a very strong MACD diversion. So that's implying that we're heading lower. We need confirmation, of course. This trend line here was tested and then broken and retested retesting right again now. So we need to find confirmation and break below this 1 hour 50. And it's to come down here, break below, that's the 1 hour 50, and then we can trade down to 4 hour 50. Euro yen. Not looking too dissimilar, is it? So we've got a similar thing, really bullish day, and it's decelerating. Yesterday, any proof of that deceleration? MACD helps prove it. Yeah, definitely MACD divergence there, so I like that. These are getting higher highs, these are getting lower highs. MACD divergence, applying lower prices. So we need to find a break of this trend line. It seems to be a pretty good one. And a break of the 1 hour 50. And when we get that, whenever that happens, we can trade this down to the 4 hour chart, the 4 hour 50 here. If that comes down, this will start leveling out. And that could be a good little short trade. Right here somewhere. Probably stop about here and here. Could be a nice little trade. Very Aussie. Right, we have this trend line which goes back a way, a long way. I showed you it yesterday. Touching here, and touch it again. It goes way back further than that. So we had a great rejection, and then we had a bearish day yesterday. That's looking like that trend change is confirmed. Again, we could have had an SBO yesterday. That would have been a great little SBO. Entering on this candle. On the SBO, you probably would have taken it this here. It's always good to look at trades you missed, because that way you'll be aware of them next time and more likely to identify them, pick them up in real time. So maybe this you'd have entered here, which is a break of the 1 hour 50, or not a very convincing break, maybe waiting for this one. Either way, you can then put a stop up here, trade it down to daily 50s down here somewhere, giving 2.5%. And you can even stop clip. Now we've had the break of the trend line, we've had the break of the 1 hour 50. I'll be tempted to bring that stop down maybe to here, so above these highs, they're kind of level there. It just got broken through very briefly, and now the risk reward is much higher. Obviously there's higher risk getting taken out, but now we've broken the 1 hour 50. As you can see, we even had the IBO entry here yesterday on the pullback. The chance of it coming back to our stop are much smaller. So that's a risk worth taking, I would say. So that's the SBO that we didn't talk about yesterday, but I'll keep an eye on for future mentions. The SBO, I need to delete that. I need to delete. That's the SBO. Okay, yes, that's correct. Right, so now this is the Grand Prix yesterday, isn't that funny how it plays out almost perfectly? So we just missed the IBO there. So the next play for us would be a break of the 4 hour 50 and CBO short. Okay. Again, we're still at this level. Is that a strong level? Let's go back and check it. Not from. Go back to here. Maybe at this level here. Back in 2012, it's traded through this level quite a lot. The monthly is given a very long low test there, implying higher prices. The weekly has done a similar kind of thing, but we're stalling here at the weekly 20. So maybe that's caused some kind of resistance here. So zooming in to the 1 hour chart, this is the daily, looking like we're going short. We've had a few indecision stroke bearish days. So it's going short. What do we have? Well, not a very clean break and retest yesterday, which still didn't, it's kind of going sideways. Want to see a nice clean break and retest, taking these lows. And then on the retest, maybe we can take it lower. Roll that down. Yeah, it's not looking very nice, is it? It's a bit messy, that one. Bit messy, not too convinced. Probably put that on my secondary. And yen. So stalling at this level again. Lots of bullish action, stalling yesterday. Is it going to turn around today? Well, we need to have proof. We seem to have on the 1 hour chart here, we're getting higher highs and higher lows. convincingly up to here. Yesterday we've had a lower high, and now we've had a lower low. So it's implying a trend reversal on the 1 hour chart. We still need to see some kind of break of the 1 hour 50. Do we have any trend lines in here? Looks like we had a trend line there that was broken last night. Take it all the way down. Broken and retested last night. So waiting for a break of the 1 hour 50. Pull back, eventually down to the 4 hour 50. The LIBO could be a nice one playing out later today, perhaps. Kiwi. So now we've had this rejection, a strong rejection, this level here. Is it a strong level? Ooh, first glance, it's hard to say. Just go back and check on that. Either way, we've had a strong rejection yesterday, so very bearish day. Broken right down. So what do we have now? We've had a pullback to the 1 hour 50. Didn't quite give an entry because of didn't touch the 1 hour 50. But now the next trade for us would be a break of the 4 hour 50 convincingly and a pullback for CBO. So that'll be a few hours away. If you did the fib from here, it would need to pull back to about here somewhere, pull back there, and we can trade it short. So that's something to keep an eye on. And the last one we look at today is dollar yen. Well, that just keeps on going up. And it's going up and up and up. It's overbought. Oh yes, it's very overbought on all time frames. Lots of dollar strength for the last while, and lots of dollar weakness for the last while. And together we have a very strong trend. All right, a few trend lines in play. We'll get rid of that one now. This one here, pretty strong. There's a big wick yesterday on all the yen pairs. I guess it was financial markets selling bonds or doing something weird. Massive spike, very quick. Doesn't matter to us, it just makes the chart look a bit messy. So we're going to breaking of this trend line. It's kind of breaking now. Do we have a MACD to confirm this? Oh, look at that. Massive MACD divergence. Higher highs on price, much lower highs on the MACD. So that's looking very much like a trend change in play. Maybe we'll get that trend change today, but we need to see a break of, again, you could have this as an SBO, a swing breakout, but today doesn't really support it. It kind of does, but you've got to be pretty brave to short this trend. Although it's overdue, it just looks, I was thinking about shorting it up here, up here, up here. It just keeps on going up. But we can definitely have some small pullbacks. And this is what an IBO will give us. We get an IBO pullback to here. Break of the 1 hour 50, pull back to the 1 hour 50, trade it down to the 4 hour 50. So keep an eye on that one. That could be a nice little trade for later. All right. Okay, good. Video's working. Okay, hope you found that useful and there's some good information in there for you. A few things to look out for. Not really that much. It's looking a little bit messy still, but there are a few things to keep an eye on and a few things in the rest of today and the rest of the week as well. So I hope you found it useful. I will catch up with you tomorrow. Good luck in the markets. Happy trading. See you.